Hi, I'm Selena from Annie's Bookstop of Worcester, and I'm here with Zin Rocklyn, who is a horror author who has written her debut novella. And Zin, for those people who are not familiar with your work, could you please explain to them exactly what it is that you write?
So I write, just as you mentioned, both actually horror and dark fantasy. Anything that's dark and weird, I'm all about it. So essentially I write everything from like slipstream to straightforward narrative to just about anything as long as it's creating a weird world and excuse me, as long as it's creating a weird world and something that I can dive into and be obsessed with.
So, what made you get into this genre?
I've always loved horror. Um, and like my brother tried to traumatize me as a kid around 4 years old. So he tried to traumatize me specifically with Nightmare on Elm Street, and I loved it. I actually giggled at most of it and loved it. And so um he he was disappointed, but at the same time he was like, okay, we could watch horror movies together. So that was pretty much the start of my path. And then I started reading. I mean, a lot of the fairy tales that I heard the grim versions first.
Ah,
So I was very much interested in how dark they were. Um, and then from there, my brother tried to traumatize me, and then I decided to start reading a lot more horror. So I was reading like Fear Street and stuff like that. So
how old was your brother when he traumatized you?
he's 8.5 years older than me. So
Ah, okay.
yeah,
That makes sense. Yeah.
yeah, yeah.
So, what do you think draws readers to these kinds of books?
I think we all like flirting with the idea of something. We all like to flirt with the idea of danger. And books allow us that safe distance. Movies allow us that safe distance from danger to observe it and to experience it in a tertiary way. Um, and I think we're just drawn to the darkness of humanity, um, especially if we don't want to activate it within ourselves. So I think there is a curiosity there that all of us kind of look into the face of to try to figure out
Hmm.
like how we interact and how the future looks and things like that. So
Hmm. Okay. So, could you tell me a little bit more about your latest book?
novella is Flowers for the Sea. And the elevator pitch is that it's a pregnant woman. There's a pregnant woman trapped on a boat with the last of humanity who believes she's pregnant with something that's not human. So, yeah, it's basically that. It's without going into spoilers, it's essentially we follow a Roxy who is essentially is exceptionally resentful of her position being pregnant. Um, Mostly because she's lost her family in a tragedy. And so she's quite bitter and quite angry. Um, but yeah, I think it's uh basically a dark fantasy slash horror. So yeah.
Okay. So, what was the inspiration for Flowers for the Sea?
Oddly enough, so it's a combination of my own thalassophobic, I think is how you say it, which is fear of the deep ocean.
Oh,
And then I actually started it from a prompt on Twitter back when they used to have prompt bots, um, which unfortunately Muskie has done away with. Um, and it was just the children imitate razor fangs, and that just activated my imagination from there.
oh, wow.
Yeah.
Okay. So what were the steps that you took to bring it from initial inspiration into a finished product?
It was so I actually started writing it as I wrote the intro first and I went to a writers group like went to a writers group meeting, but not a lot of people showed up. There's only three of us, so we decided to make it a writing session. And I just started continuing from there, and I just became obsessed with it for about a month and a half and just was writing constantly. So
Mhm.
absolutely fell in love with the project.
How long did it actually take you to write it, the first draft?
The first draft took a solid month.
Okay.
So yeah, it took a month.
Wow. So, did you have to do any kind of research for this book?
Absolutely. I did research. I have never actually birthed a child. But um, so I did research on that, mostly asking friends about their experiences being pregnant, um, and having children and the process of having children. And a
Hmm.
lot of what I came away with is that there are a lot of chemicals in your brain that just kind of mute the experience. So my um, descriptions are basically kind of based off of what I've seen of childbirth. Um, and so it's kind of like, it's kind of my dad's back just in case. But so yeah, I did research on pregnancy and then I did some research on the ocean itself and what it would be like with a post-apocalyptic situation, um, or apocalyptic. Um, so that was essentially the research that I did, but most of it is just kind of made up.
Okay. So, do you have any favorite research story at all from any of your writing?
I did go down a rabbit hole of the deep ocean, which freaked me out. But that was fun. Like learning about the different kind of creatures and like the giant squid and stuff like that. And it's
Ah,
really scary, but really fascinating at the same time.
it's interesting that you did all the research on the ocean and you're afraid of it, the deep ocean.
Hmm.
It's great that you were able to push yourself to um to really study it, something that you are afraid of. It's wonderful.
Yeah. I like to do research to like quell the fear, kind of a thing. That just made
Hmm.
it worse.
I think that's kind of like um that might be why some people read certain horror stories if they're afraid of something, you know,
Hmm. Yep.
or sometimes if you fall off a horse, you get back on the saddle kind of thing.
Yep.
Okay. So what was the biggest challenge that you had in putting out your book?
Um, I guess my biggest challenge was not taking editing so hard because you have your ugly baby and you're like, this baby is the best baby in the world. But obviously, to outside people, it's like, yeah, that's a baby. Um, so it was a matter of letting go. And I think it was more so about the fact that I felt like I couldn't do any better than what I was
Mhm.
written, but I had an incredible editor who I actually had two editors who were incredibly encouraging and just really kind and were reassuring and made sure that I understood that they did want the piece and that they saw a lot of potential in it. So
Aha. Okay. So was there one character that you really loved or really hated in your
I
story?
I loved Roxy. Um, and strangely enough, writing Herat was fun. That tension, that kind of back and forth between Herat and Araxi, um, was something that was fun to write and fun to explore. But my favorite character would definitely be Araxi.
Hmm. Yeah, that's kind of what I thought.
Yeah.
Okay. Um, so what else can we expect from you in the near future?
Well, I'm working on my second novella, um, which is going to be a remix of Cinderella.
Ah,
And uh yeah, that's basically what I'm working on. Gonna be more of a dark fantasy again, and but of course there are gonna be horror elements because it's me. So
of
yeah,
course, yeah. Okay.
yeah.
Interesting. All right. So now I have questions about you being a writer. What is your favorite part about being a writer on the whole writing and publishing process?
Being lost in the world. That's my favorite
Mhm.
part. Is making the world realized to pen and paper. That's definitely my favorite part. Is being in the world and being obsessed with the world and the characters, and that's my favorite part for sure.
Okay. And when you're writing, are you an outliner or do you let the characters kind of take you?
I let the characters take me. I'm a pantser, which is
Hmm.
kind of not good, but for longer
Oh,
projects. But um, yeah, I'm a pantser for sure.
that's the most fun way. Think.
Yeah, it's exciting. Definitely exciting.
Okay. So, what do you consider the most challenging part of the whole writing process, and how do you overcome it?
Challenging part would definitely be the start of it and continuing. Um, but it's a matter of sitting at the computer. Like I'm learning more and more of what Octavia Butler said, where you can't rely on inspiration, you have to rely on habit. So I'm
Ah,
trying to make the
right.
habit for myself to get into it.
Okay. So, what has been your favorite adventure during your writing career?
Hmm. My favorite adventure would probably be the Loyal Dagger that I wrote for the Black Guards anthology for Outland Entertainment. Um, that was a really fun. That's actually the short story that I'm expanding and basing my novella on.
Oh,
Um,
okay.
yeah, that world will be expanded. So I'm excited to return to it.
So that was your favorite adventure was writing that
Yeah,
short story?
yeah,
Ah,
definitely.
okay. So, what was the greatest lesson that you've learned during your writing career?
Patience, for
Patience.
sure, patience. Just having just being kinder to myself with patience. Because there's obviously the times where you just don't write, and not writing is part of writing. So it's a matter of being patient with yourself and forgiving yourself for those times. It's challenging for sure.
Do you set aside specific times, or can you just write when you can?
I write when I can. I write.
Okay.
Um, as much as I am learning to deal with structure, I don't like too much structure because I feel like that kind of strips at the imagination. So it's a matter of like, if I got an idea, I'm like at the laptop. If I don't have an idea, I'm staring at the laptop kind of a thing.
Uh-huh. Okay. So, what piece of advice would you want to give to other writers, aside from patience?
Um, Definitely be kinder to yourself. Um, Trust the process and write for yourself.
Ah, that's key.
Definitely, yeah, definitely write for yourself first.
So you're saying don't write for who you think might read it, just write what you want to write.
Right, exactly.
Okay. Yeah, because that's usually what comes out better.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Okay.
Absolutely. Yeah.
So are there any groups, clubs, or organizations that might have helped you in your career that you might recommend to other writers?
I did a lot of work with the Gotham Workshop, Gotham Writers Workshop, which is a workshop. Um, I guess you could say they offer different workshops. Um, that's in the New York City area. That was definitely a great workshop to take. Um, I was also part of the Jersey City Writers Group, as well as Brooklyn Speculative Writers Group. And that's of course based in Brooklyn. But it's also online, so you don't have to live in Brooklyn because I'm still a part of the group. You don't have to be in Brooklyn to be part of it.
Oh, great. Okay. Now I have some questions for you about um being, questions about you as a person.
Hmm.
What is one thing that most people don't realize about you?
And I'm actually an introvert. I'm an extroverted introvert, I guess you could say. Um, like I can totally be part of the group, but then I need to recharge afterward, be by myself.
Hmm.
Uh,
Yep. Yeah, I was just thinking that if I had $1 for every or for every writer that sold me that, I'd be
yeah,
rich.
right. Yeah, right.
It's such a
Yeah.
it's a solitary job.
Hmm.
Except you're alone, but you're with all your characters.
Exactly.
If you're a fiction writer,
Right.
yeah, very true. Okay, this one's a hard one.
Hmm.
Okay, you may or may not have an answer to this one. What question do you wish interviewers would ask you, and what would your answer be?
Hmm. Very good question. I would probably say the question that I would want asked is more about the business part of it.
Oh,
I think there's a lot of mystery surrounding the business part of writing. Um, because there are the exceptional examples like Stephen King, the name that we shall not speak, um, who they're incredibly rich.
Right.
Um, but that is not the case for 98% of us. um, we're broke. We don't get paid a lot for writing, so for writing books and novellas and short stories. But
Hmm.
that's definitely worth the paycheck. Well, the paycheck could be nicer.
Yeah, I would think a paycheck would be great.
Yeah, yeah.
A larger paycheck, I would assume. Yeah,
Yes,
but one thing
exactly.
is that authors do not get paid very much unless you know, unless you write lots of bestsellers.
Hmm.
And yeah, exactly. I mean, some people might think that authors are get paid lots and lots of money, but they don't.
They really don't. They
Yeah.
really do not.
If it, you could, unless you might sell your book which turns into a movie or something like that. Now, then you're starting to get into a little more money. Yeah. But okay. So, what is or are your passions when you're not writing? Like, what are your hobbies and things that you like to do? And how do you make time for them?
I love reading. Absolutely
Yep.
love reading. Um, and I pretty much always have a book with me when I'm around the house. So I
Hmm.
just squeeze in little bits of time to read a page or two. Um, lately, I haven't been able to read too much for pleasure, because um, like I'm in grad school, so you're reading everything for grad school. So, but yeah, I've been trying to read for pleasure as well, trying to stick some time in there because it's important for sure.
Aha. Okay. Um, so what does your writing space look like? And what do you have to have with you when you're writing, or editing? It's like things like food or drink.
I usually have water with me. My writing space is always a mess. It's organized chaos, as I like to call it.
Hmm.
And I usually have to have music going on,
Okay, what kind of music? Is with lyrics, without lyrics?
usually instrumental. But there are times where I do listen to lyric music, music with lyrics. And like I listen to everything from nouveau classical to metal to punk rock to rap, hip hop, R&B, soca, calypso, like everything. I listen to a lot of stuff to make sure that I'm in the headspace and in the mood for the characters and for the spaces and things like that.
Hmm. Okay. Um, so writers very often have furry or feathered or otherwise non-human companions to either help or hinder them with their work. And do you have any? And do they help or hinder you?
No, I have no furry friends yet. Yet.
Yet? Yes. Okay.
I love cats. Love cats. My boyfriend has a cat who is mostly an outside cat, but he hangs out with us every once in a while. And I
Uh,
adore this cat so much. But I love cats and I hope to have a cat someday. A writer's cat someday.
uh-huh. Okay. Yeah, they're wonderful.
Yeah.
So are dogs, but
Yeah,
cats are
there's
wonderful.
something, yes, cats, something about cats.
Yep. So, I have two more questions for you. One is, where can people find your work aside from Annie's Bookstop of Worcester? And in every video, I always give a plug for Annie's. You you can get Zin's book at Annie's if you call us at 508-796-5613, or you can email us at orders@anniesbooksworcester.com. And where else can people find your work?
I'm actually rebuilding my website, but soon enough it'll be under zinrock.com. So zinrock.com. And essentially, right now, the easiest way is just Google Zin E Rocklyn. Um, you can get a lot of the stuff that I've written on Amazon, if not everything, on Bezos land, and bookshop.org. So if you want to save the indies.
Okay. And my last question is, how can we follow your work and share your awesomeness?
Oh, awesome. You can find me on Twitter at Intelligent Twat.
At, excuse me, at what?
Intelligent Twat.
Okay.
um, and you can find me on Twitter as well as Facebook, um, under Zen E Rocklyn.
Okay. That sounds wonderful. So we will be expecting all kinds of wonderful things from you in the future. Uh,
Awesome. Thank you.
okay. Well, thank you so much for joining me, and maybe someday we will get you into our store.
Yeah, that would be great. That would be
Okay.
great.
So, Zin Rockland, we appreciate you.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Thank you, Selena.
Bye.
Bye.